Shiru's day was not going on a good start. First he had been about to be killed by some guy in blue spandex. Then he was about to get killed by a pink-haired woman who claimed that her master wanted him dead. After that another woman, a rather beautiful one he will admit, comes out of his freaking shed claiming to be his servant Saber, whatever the hell that meant. He watched as the two fought with clear awe in his eyes. I want to be just like that someday, he thought. His eyes widened once he saw the man who had warned him to dodge earlier suddenly drop-kick the pink-haired woman. That's so cool, he thought, observing the pair of red and white guns that the man was using right now. The pink-haired woman soon disappears, much to his relief. That's enough, leave her be for now, Archer, a familiar voice calls out. Tosaka! He exclaims in his mind. He never thought a girl like her would be involved in this. Then again, he shouldn't be surprised, since he did catch her talking to herself that one time on the roof. He turns his gaze back at the man in black. He felt an instinctive feeling of disgust and anger just by looking at him now, he thought. The man narrows his steel-grey eyes at him for a moment until he disappears. Tosaka approached me, dusting her skirt off, while the swordswoman Saber, he remembered, stood in front of him. Halt, just because you aided me and my master does not mean I will trust you, Saber declared, invisible sword ready. Shiru quickly raises his hand to stop her. No, wait, Saber, don't do anything to her. She's not an enemy, he exclaimed. She placed her sword down at his words, but still she remained cautious. The four immediately went inside his house, where Tosaka began explaining everything about the Holy Grail War, command seals, the church, and what heroic spirits were. Needless to say, he was pretty amazed to find that Saber was indeed a hero. Tosaka then explained how they needed to head toward the church and get registered for the war. Meanwhile, with Alter, he observes his former household, feeling more memories come back to him. Alter hates the warmth that he feels from the memories. It made him want to just blow up. He looked back at the boy who was currently conversing with Rin. At the current moment, the naive boy was only on the starting part of his path to become a hero of justice. Justice, he wants to scoff. The boy didn't know anything about justice. He knows that the boy is merely obsessed with the salvation that comes with justice. But justice stands in its own league and one cannot connect salvation to it. Justice is merely the representation of order and salvation, something that people may find to be similar perhaps. But nonetheless they have always been different. He thought, remembering the cult of Kira Sessien and the innocents he had been forced to cut down that day. He shakes his head. He doesn't want to remember that day, the day in which he finally lost it all. When the time comes, Alter would break the boy, reshape him into something that wouldn't become a pure killing machine, executing justice wherever he went. He silently followed his master as they made their way to the church. I will stay out here, Master, Rin, Saber said, having no desire to see the face of Kotomine Kirei. The two masters shrugged and went on inside, with Alter following close by until he stopped. I will stay out here as well, Master, he mentally said through their connection. Rin nods and the two head inside. Meanwhile, Alter goes on ahead to the rooftop of the church. He would rather not have to deal with the King of Heroes and Kirei trying to destroy the world again with that damn grail. Quickly he projected a ton of C4 explosives reinforced to the max. He then placed them all over the roof, making sure they were concealed. He also hid some near the pillars. Alter decided he would blow up both the church later tonight and Ryudu Temple on Thursday for his plans to work in regards to the boy. He's sure that by now Media has contracted with the school teacher. It will only be a matter of time before she makes her move. It was a good thing he never told Rin about his sneaking around during the first day he was summoned. Otherwise she would no doubt be quite mad at him for involving even more innocents, but he does what's necessary. With his traps all set, he goes back near the gates where Saber stood waiting. She was staring at him. He doesn't know why, but he feels like she's judging him or something. Any particular reason as to why you're staring at me, Saber? He asked monotonously. Forgive me, Archer, it's just that something about you feels familiar to me, she said in her usual formal tone. He scoffs, doubt it, you don't know me just as I don't know you. That's a lie, he knows her well enough as his former servant. He used to be the sheath for Avalon. He killed her, Sakura, and Rin for the sake of the world. Another tiny gold line sprouts, this time appearing over the side of his heart. It would seem our masters are finished with their business, Saber said, snapping him out of his thoughts. He stands next to Rin in astral mode as both EMIYA and Saber talk. The two soon shook hands after Saber renewed her oath to him. I am going to ensure the tragedy of 10 years ago never happens, his younger self said. The four walked out from the church. This is as far as we go, EMIYA. Starting tomorrow, we will be enemies, Rin declared. I could just eliminate them right now and save us the trouble, Alter said with his Kancho gun in hand. He really wasn't going to kill them though, he was just putting on an act. Not to mention Rin would not allow for such a thing. No, Archer, you will do such a thing, she said. He can feel the subtle order from first the command seal compelling him to do so. Alter shrugged, placing the gun back onto his belt. As always, you are too soft, master, he said. Of course, they were soon interrupted by the arrival of both EMIYA and her servant Hercules. EMIYA greeted them, but Alter's mind froze when he saw her. He remembers EMIYA. I am sorry, EMIYA, but I cannot follow such an obvious thing. His mind turns into steel. He could not allow his convictions to waver. For the sake of everyone who could not be saved, I can't let any more people share in their fate. I see, so you're going to choose the same method as Kiritsugu, you're going to cast everyone you love for the sake of people that you don't even know, she had replied to him. That's right, Kiritsugu and I are the same. If you want to curse someone, you can curse me, he said. She had unexpectedly replied to him instead of lashing out, I pity you, Shiru, you're going to be deceiving yourself with that crying face of yours. Those were her last words to me before he knocked her out and forcefully used her as a mana battery to supply him with enough mana to combat the remaining servants. Alter wasn't going to ever admit it, but in his heart his dear sister was right, he had deceived himself. He had indeed cried by the end of it, but swords weren't supposed to cry, so he had brought his mind of steel higher to be rid of his emotions. Snapping out from his thoughts, Alter quickly retreated away to gain some distance. While Saber went to go combat Berserker, he could have killed EMIYA if he wanted to. But he didn't want to, he would instead leave it up to EMIYA to take care of her. The blueprints for Kalidbulg and Hrunting appear in his mind. He projects them down to their last detail before twisting them into bullets. He inserts Kalidbulg into Kancho and Hrunting into Bakuya, turning them into broken phantasms ready to blow away two of Hercules' lives. He waits until Saber uses her sword to take one of his lives away with Excalibur. I am the bone of my sword, my core is twisted with madness, Kalidbulg, he chanted, shooting the bullet. Everything twisted apart until boom. A large explosion engulfed Hercules, but he's not done yet. Fly Hunter of the Red Plains Hrunting, he chants, launching the second broken phantasm, piercing the still healing Berserker right in the chest. 3 lives were successfully taken away, he mentally counted, dashing forward. This time he proceeded to trace multiple copies of Kancho and Bakuya, performing a triple crane wing. For lives he counted, jumping back, leaving 8 lives left. He draws more of Rin's mana. This time he traces Berserker's own weapon, the 9 lives. Trigger on set, he chanted. Holding the giant weapon, he let Hercules' experience and memory take over his body. He turns his body into steel in order to keep up with the strength that was necessary to use the technique. 9 lives, blade works, he exclaimed, slashing the weapon forth with a great burst of power. He strikes his upper arm, collarbone, windpipe, temple, diaphragm, rib, testicles, and thighs simultaneously at god speed, faster than the speed of sound. It wasn't enough though. Hercules roared on, ready to charge with all of his power. But Alter instincts honed through many years of fighting allowed him to dodge, leaving Hercules' back exposed. He quickly thrusts the giant weapon right through Hercules' back. He keeps going until it exits forth from his chest, destroying his heart. Alter pants, performing the 9 lives drained a lot of his strength and stamina. He quickly reverts his body back from steel. Servant Berserker has been eliminated, master, he huffed out. Ilya's cries echoed as she begged her servant to not leave her. Alter walks behind her and chops her neck, knocking her out. He carries her and hands her over to his past self. Here, you take her, boy, he commanded. The boy looks at him with all sorts of emotions until he just nods. Saber, on the other hand, stares at him intently. I've never seen a servant with so many different phantasms. Just who exactly are you? She asked, not mentioning Gilgamesh at all. He turns his gaze at her, pausing mid-step. An executor of justice, he answers before turning back to his exhausted-looking master. I apologize, master, I've used up quite a bit of your mana, but it was necessary. I will be in spirit form to recover a bit, he said. Rin nods her head. It's fine, Archer, although I would like to know how you have so many noble phantasms even though a servant can only have 1, at most 2 only, she said. I'll tell you later, Alter said dismissively, and entered astral form. Rin gains a tick mark on her head. Geez, what an asshole, you could at least tell me now instead of later, she mutters under her breath. Alright, I am going to end this on a cliffhanger. I hope you all enjoyed this part, and as always, stay tuned for more content.